Manufacturer My Arcade has just started shipping some of their new product for 2024. Much of it that we saw teased back at CES in January. And just the other day I did my review of the Ms.PAC-MAN Joystick Player that's new for this year. Well, no sooner than I released that video, I started getting comments and requests asking if I would compare it to last year's 2023 Ms.PAC-MAN Micro Player Pro. That's exactly what I'm going to do right after this. This video brought to you in part by Tommy and the Order of Cosmic Champions. This exciting and heartwarming coming-of-age Gen X novel is available now. Check the link for more info. Hey there, welcome back to Gen X Grown Up. I'm John, and I am a Gen X Grown Up. Thank you for taking the time to check out this video. Yeah, ever since I posted my review for the Ms.PAC-MAN Joystick Player, I've been getting feedback in the comments and Facebook. I got a text message from a dear friend who was puzzled because he said that, look, to all outward appearances, this new joystick player is superior to last year's Ms.PAC-MAN Micro Player Pro. Gotta get that terminology right. And I get that. When I do a review, it comes down, there are a lot of intangibles and a lot of tangibles that I don't have time to fit into a review that go into factoring how I give a rating. You know, it has to do with what else is available, what's on the market, you know, improvement over last year, just kind of, and a general feel for the gameplay and behavior of the device. So responding to all of those messages, I thought it was appropriate to do this follow-up and kind of help you compare the two, because it's not cut and dry. In fact, spoiler alert for maybe the end of this video, in doing the work and the writing, I'm not sure I can pick which one is the best. It might sound odd, but stick with me. What I can do is give you all the information that I used in grading them in my reviews so that you can pick which one is the best for you, possibly. So let's get started by taking a look at the appearance, the outward design of these two units. And this should come as no surprise, but I find them both to be very attractive units. The joystick player may have a slight edge in that it has that nice deck with the racetrack graphic coming down it and the big ball, but they both use the same general mold, the same color. I like how they use the decals on the side along with the pink molded device to give the impression of pink T-molding on a blue cabinet. That really works well. And of course you have the original artwork. So between the two, if you want to give an edge to one or the other, maybe the joystick player, but they both look fantastic. Well, while we're here, probably a good idea to just kind of run over the general feature set of these two. You know, starting with the 2023 Micro Player Pro. Now, you remember that it has a single title. It has Ms. Pac-Man, and it was a huge upgrade from the Ms. Pac-Man we saw in previous years. It has a 2.75-inch screen, and for controls, you have the, now there was an upgraded joystick. It's not the little screw-in, screw-off like we had in the past on this Pro. It has a steel shaft and everything, kind of like that Street Fighter 2. I mean, not as cool as this one, of course, a year later, but all that was upgraded from previous years. Thus, I think the Pro moniker was added to these. Coming over then to the joystick player, and on paper, this thing has it hands down, right? So first of all, two games, well, I mean, two-ish games, right? You have Ms. Pac-Man and you have Ms. Pac-Man with the speed-up chip version. You have a much larger 3.5-inch screen, almost a full inch larger than last year. You have, of course, this fantastic joystick that I can't say enough about. We'll talk more about it, in fact, throughout the course of this. Plus, high score saving now on the joystick player. So on paper, it looks like this one kind of has it hands down, but there are plenty more factors that we want to look at. Another question I saw pop up several times in the comments had to do with physical playability. What was it like? You know, did it slip around on the table too much? What was it like to play one-handed with the controls? And you know, so I'm playing the game here, and you can see sometimes you can play it with just one hand. Generally, I hold on to the base of the unit with my other hand. You don't have to have a death grip on it or anything, but certainly if you get in a kind of excited moment and you're reversing really quickly or you're changing directions, you can make the device wobble. Now, it doesn't slide around on the table. What can happen is it can wobble a little bit left or right. That might be even more prevalent in the joystick player because you have so much leverage with that big ball. But I mean, overall, experience of playing it on a table is certainly goes to the joystick player. Once you play Ms. Pac-Man in this little unit with the full-size joystick player's controller, it's really hard to go back and play on that little nub of the stick. I mean, both are very playable. The play experience in general I have to give to the joystick player just because it feels so natural. I want to turn now to what is certainly the most commented on facet of this new joystick player versus yet last year's Micro Pro, and that is the audio. Now, some have said, you know, the samples are too fast, or samples have changed, or it's not as good as last year, or it's better than last year, whatever. And it's kind of a mixed bag, in fact. Now, what I'm doing here for each test is I am powering it with USB, so there's no worry about a low battery affecting, you know, operation speed, and I have my microphone right back there behind that rear-firing speaker. Now, you might ask, why don't I just plug it into the headphone jack? And it's because that's not how I play this game. I'm not going to plug it in a headphone. I care how it sounds outwardly. So the way I'm going to do this is in sequence. I'm going to play the sample in the original arcade game, then I'm going to play last year's Micro Player Pro, and then I'm going to play this year's joystick player and let you hear the differences between them. Let's start with just putting in a token. Now, many viewers commented that the opening music, that tune that plays when you start the game, was either too fast or the wrong timbre or something. So again, here are the 3 examples. And finally, here's some general gameplay sounds, you know, some munching dots and some eating power pellets and ghosts. One thing that leapt out at me from this year's joystick player, I want you to listen to it, and it's the sound of when the ghost's eyes are returning to the ghost pin. There's an odd pitched sound that didn't exist on last year's and it wasn't on the previous year. Now, one more time, all of this, if we had the original arcade ROM, none of this would even be an observation, right? Because it would sound exactly like it sounded in the arcade. But because we are working with something that is trying to approach the arcade, that sound, I've said it many, many times in many, many other videos, it does make a difference. So here is all 3 examples of just some average gameplay, and listen for the differences to your ear. And finally, in all 3 examples, I got to the first intermission after 2 screens. It's another example of music, and also an example of where there's irregularity from year to year. You'll hear in last year's 2023 Micro, the bonking heads of the ghosts sounded correct, and in this year, it somehow got broken. I don't know how or why. Listen to the examples. Ooh, I hated that non-bonk noise. Now, I should mention, maybe I should have mentioned it before, but I will say that in each case, the audio you're hearing is unmodified. It's not been filtered or amplified or done anything to EQ it. It's straight out of the back of the speaker on the device. And you should have heard, in fact, I heard when I was playing them side by side, the speaker on the joystick player is superior. It sounds better. It reproduces sounds more clearly than the smaller Micro Player Pro did last year. And yet, it's kind of a toss-up, right? Because like some of the sounds are better on last year's, some of the sounds are better on this year's. Some things we should be continually improving, and we're finding some things that didn't continually improve, but in fact went backwards in a couple of cases. But then you have the fact that this year's joystick player brought 2 big things to the table. It brought the sped up Ms.PAC-MAN, which many, many people prefer over the original, and it did high score saving. And I want to take a look at the sped up Ms.PAC-MAN. This is one of those intangibles that was gnawing at the back of my head, but I didn't talk about explicitly in my review. I want you to listen to the sound of an original sped up Ms.PAC-MAN, specifically the cadence of when you're eating dots, tearing your way around the maze, and how fast that sounds, and then listen to what it sounds like from the joystick player from this year, and how that cadence, that rhythm just doesn't quite sound the same. See, it almost sounds like you're eating dots at normal speed when we know you're not. That actually contributed to me thinking that the joystick player speed up chip was not running at the same speed as the original. But I did this test where I do a circuit of the maze. It's a pretty good test, I think. I pick the upper left by the upper left power pellet and run a full circuit all the way around the maze, back just a full square. And you can see just about to the frame, they're exactly the same speed. So I think my impression that the sped up was not running as fast as I wanted it to all came down to the sound not having the same frenetic quality as the sped up Ms. Pac-Man you would play in the arcade. All of this boils down into it's very difficult to pick, and I warned you, very difficult to pick a winner. Which one is better of these two? It's really difficult. It's a toss-up, right? So this one's it's like 10 bucks cheaper. This one has the nice large joystick. Some of the sounds on this one are better. Some of the sounds here are better, but you have a sped up Ms. Pac-Man and you have high score saving. But the sped up Ms. Pac-Man has some audio issues. You see why it's so difficult to declare a winner, and I'm not going to try to. As I said, it's important that I share this information with you, a consumer, so that before you plunk down $40 or $50 to pick one of these, expecting one thing and getting something else, it's much more valuable to me, to my arcade, to the market in general, that you know what's out there, you know what you're spending your money on, and you end up getting what it is you hoped to get. So that is about as thorough a comparison as I can do between these two, short of tearing them apart and analyzing the guts. I'm not going to do that right now, but I certainly hope you found something to enjoy in this video. You know, I'm going to throw links here and here to some other coverage related to these new gadgets for 2024. Can't wait to talk to you again next time. Bye-bye.